Hello and welcome to cover design tutorial number 1. Over the coming months I'm planning to upload a complete set of tutorials that will take anyone from zero to hero in terms of cover design skills. However, we all have to start somewhere, so in this first video I'm going to talk about how you can create attractive cover gradients in Photoshop CS2. By the end of the tutorial you'll be able to create something a little bit like this. The cover textures in 3D Boxshot Pro wrap around the cover of the books, as you can see here. As a result, it's very important to create a cover image of the exact size required for the book cover. When you double click on a model in 3D Boxshot Pro, it highlights in red to show that it's selected. Let's do that now. Now if you look at the Surface tab, you can see the exact pixel dimensions of the cover image. This is what we need to create in Photoshop. Okay, so back into Adobe Photoshop CS2 now. This is how the program appears when you run it for the first time. It's possible a lot of people can find it quite intimidating to begin with, because essentially you've got this large area of blank space and lots of these strange esoteric looking icons. But very simply we're going to select File, New, enter the width and height of the image. As you can see here, I've already entered the details of 1500 by 1024, which is the same size as the image that we need for the cover in 3D Boxshot Pro. So if we click OK, we'll open a blank new image. Now we've created a new image, we need to access the layer window. If you can't already see it, just select Window and Layers, or you can use the shortcut key, which is just a quick press on F7. The first thing we need to do is unlock the background layer. You can do this very simply by double clicking on it and giving it a name. We call it Background Gradient. As you'll see, the little unlock icon has disappeared. Now if we double click again on it, we can access layer styles, and what we're going to do here is select Gradient Overlay. Immediately you see the image is filled with a rather sort of bland looking grey gradient. You can adjust the angle of this gradient, or you can select a different type of gradient. It's probably fair to say that Photoshop doesn't ship with the nicest of all imaginable default gradients, but fortunately you can easily download additional gradients from the web. To do this, if you click on the little arrow icon here and select the Load Gradients option, I'm going to select a set that I downloaded. If we scroll down the list, we'll be able to see these gradients. Simple click here and we'll see we've got a much more attractive looking gradient. Like many of the features in Adobe Photoshop CS2, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so I'm going to show you an alternative way you can apply gradients to the background image. The first thing we need to do is to switch off the layer styles. So if we double click on the actual layer and take the check out of Gradient Overlay, this will allow us to use the Gradient tool, which I've selected here. You can select from the list of available gradients, and instead of using the layer styles you can actually draw the gradient. So depending on how far you stretch the line across the image, this dictates the angle of the gradient as well as how thick it is. For example, if I do a little very short line, you'll see that the edges of the gradient are much less stretched across the image. This gives you probably a higher degree of control over the gradient that you create. So once you're satisfied that you've created a lovely gradient suitable to be used as the background for a book cover, what we need to do is select File and Save for Web. What we then need to do is ensure that we select to save the file as a PNG 24 file. This is a 24-bit PNG file, and select Save. If we give it a name, I'm going to pop it in a folder called Gradients, and I'm just going to call it Nice Gradient. That will save off the gradient file, and for the next step we're going to load this in as the cover for a book in 3D Boxshot Pro. Okay, so we're back in 3D Box Shop Pro now. So the first thing we need to do is highlight the book. This is already selected, but if we select it again, we need to unload the existing texture. So with the book selected, click the unload icon. This will remove the default texture. We can now load in the new texture. Now to do this, you have to select the model again, so that it's highlighted in red, and select the load button. Let's select the gradient that I just saved to my desktop, which was in a file called gradients, and nice gradient. And there we can see the gradient has been loaded onto the book. You can add a little bit more life to the texture if we had some opacity, which makes the surface reflective. It's best not to overuse this effect, as it can create a slightly unnatural looking shine, but a little bit of opacity does create a nice sort of gentle shine to the cover of the ebook. I'm now going to load in a preset that I previously created, selecting load scene with models, and I'm going to load in a scene. Now all I've done here is created a nice curved fan-like arrangement of books with sort of slightly open books. This is quite useful because if you were to imagine this was an actual book, you'd be able to see both the front cover and the back cover of the book. This is useful from a marketing perspective, as it provides a nice way of displaying a collection of books, but it allows you to show the front cover and the back cover blurb as well, which can certainly help in getting the message across about what the book is about. And that's it for tutorial 1. If you wouldn't mind, please feel free to leave abusive, unpleasant or indeed illiterate comments, as is the well-known tradition for YouTube videos. And finally, I'd just like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. Thanks. Bye.